With multiple felony crimes in federal court, Clayton County Sheriff Victor Hill now suspended as sheriff today. The decision made by Governor Brian Kemp, the governor making the suspension official based on the recommendation of a state commission. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jennifer Bellamy.
And I'm Ron Jones. Let's get straight to Joe Hinkie is live right now in Clayton County with a look at what's next for Hill and the sheriff's office. Joe.
Well, Ron, Victor Hill suspended as Clayton County Sheriff today. Tomorrow he could face a second suspension. I talked this evening with the executive director of Georgia Post. They issue law enforcement certification for officers in Georgia. He tells me tomorrow afternoon he will decide whether or not to suspend Hill's state law enforcement certification. If that is suspended for the time being, he would lose such powers as the ability to make arrests. Controversial Clayton County Sheriff Victor Hill's suspension became official this afternoon after Governor Brian Kemp signed this executive order. Kemp's order followed the recommendation of a three-person review commission to suspend Hill. The commission reviewed this federal indictment filed against Hill in April. State Attorney General Chris Carr, Cherokee County Sheriff Frank Reynolds, and Burke County Sheriff Alfonso Williams made up the commission.
We just found that this was outside of the scope of the sheriff's discretion.
Williams says the commission took their review of this case seriously, but in the end easily came to a unanimous decision to recommend Hill be suspended. In the federal indictment returned by a grand jury against Hill, he is accused of having 4 inmates in 2020 strapped into restraint chairs for hours at a time. Each is described as unarmed, not under the influence of drugs, and offered no resistance. Federal prosecutors say the use of the chair served as punishment, violating each inmate's civil rights and caused pain and injuries.
It was not after a person had been destroying property or being a physical harm to himself or others, but more so as a lesson to not behave a particular way in Clayton County.
Under state law, Hill's suspension will last until the federal case is resolved or his term ends, whichever comes first. If convicted, though, of the felony crimes he is charged with, the law calls for him to vacate the position of sheriff. And in cases like this, state law also calls for a county's chief deputy sheriff to become the acting sheriff. We've reached out tonight to state and Clayton County officials, but we have not received confirmation yet of the chief deputy sheriff for Clayton County being named the acting sheriff at this time. Jennifer, we also left several messages tonight with Victor Hill's attorneys asking for their comment or if they're available for an interview about the suspension, but so far we've received no response.
All right, Joe, thank you. We'll continue to follow this story for you as long as it needs. All right, so this isn't the only controversy plaguing Victor Hill. Back in 2012, he was accused of several counts of racketeering, theft by taking and making false statements. He was acquitted on all of those charges. In 2015, he says he accidentally shot a friend while demonstrating police tactics. And the Georgia Peace Officer Standards and Training Council put his law enforcement certification on probation. Then last year, the Southern Center for Human Rights and the ACLU of Georgia filed lawsuits claiming Hill wasn't doing enough to protect inmates against COVID-19. Even with all of these different allegations that we have seen involving Sheriff Hill and the controversies that have gone along with it, many people in Clayton County say they still support him.
And if the bad influences are willing to stay out of my county because they fear him, stay gone.
For more on the latest case and what comes next with Sheriff Victor Hill, you can look for this story on 11alive.com.